The reason I'm here today to talk to you about how I see the world. And I'm going to start by pointing out that a few years ago, my then fiancée, she's now my wife, Paige Parker, and I spent 3 years driving around the world. We drove 245,000 kilometers through 116 countries for 3 years. And I got into the Guinness Book of Records because I'm the first hedge fund manager to drive around the world. So I'm going to start talking about Japan, but while I talk about Japan, I will bring in some of the elements of other things that I'm doing with my own portfolio. In my own portfolio, I am mainly long commodities and currencies. I have sold short stocks in America, Europe, and emerging markets. I am pessimistic about economies and stock markets in most of the world for the next year or two. But having said that, Japan is one of the few countries where I own some shares. I was thinking about buying Japanese shares last winter, and then the tsunami hit, and so I bought some shares in Japan during the tsunami. Now you may say, why would you buy shares in Japan? You told us that you're short stocks all over the world, and you don't expect much from the economies or stock markets in the next year or two. In fact, back in the 1970s, some of you may remember or some of you may have read about, in the 1970s, stock markets around the world did nothing, but commodities went straight up. In my view, this is the 1970s again, where people will make money in commodities and have trouble making money in stocks. So why Japan? Why would I buy shares in Japan? Your country has some serious problems facing it. You have a very serious demographic problem facing you. Your population is declining because you are not having babies and you refuse to allow immigration. The debt in Japan is skyrocketing. So 10 years from now or 20 years from now, Japan will face very serious problems. Well, I know that. The rest of the world knows that, and you know that. The result of that is that your stock market today is at the same level it was in 1983, 28 years ago. I want to repeat, your stock market today is back to where it was in 1983, 28 years ago. Most people in Japan have given up on the stock market. Most people in Japan have given up on investing at all, other than perhaps to put some of their money abroad to try to earn higher interest. One reason that I started investing in Japan was because I own the yen. I'm optimistic about the yen. I think the yen will continue to go higher. Massive amounts of Japanese money has been invested abroad, but in my view, they will soon start losing money on that money invested abroad, and so a massive amount of that money is going to come back home. As that money comes back home, it's got to go somewhere. I doubt that it will go into bank deposits or bonds because the interest rates are so low. So then that leaves the stock market. They can go into commodities or into stocks. But one reason that I think it will, now back to stocks, stocks are where they were 28 years ago. Stocks in Japan are very cheap. But just because they're cheap, they can get cheaper. They've been getting cheaper for 20 years, 21 years. There are many other sectors of the Japanese economy which will do well. You have a very aging population. Somebody's got to take care of those old people. You're not having any babies. I know your government is trying to persuade you to have babies. I suspect that will change eventually. I own shares in Tommy and Hello Kitty because even if Japanese parents don't have more children, people around the world, I suspect, are going to have more children. I'm not suggesting you buy Tommy or Sanrio today, but I suggest you think about it and do some homework and some research. I've told you that I'm very optimistic about commodities. I own all commodities. I especially own agriculture and precious metals. So you can invest in commodities themselves or in commodity producers or people who benefit from commodity prosperity. My little girls have never owned a stock or a bond, but they do own commodities, and they're very happy only owning commodities. So there are many opportunities in Japan going forward. There are many great opportunities in the world going forward. Just as in the 70s, some people are going to suffer badly. But just as in the 70s, some people are going to prosper and make a lot of money going forward. In my view, Asia is the place to be, and Japan may be one of the better placed countries for the future. Well, I own the Swiss franc. The yen and the Swiss franc are my largest currency holdings. Both the government of Switzerland and the government of Japan is trying to keep their currencies down. I obviously think they're wrong. They will not be successful. So I own the Swiss franc and the Japanese yen. They're my largest currency holdings. I told you before that I am not optimistic about Europe. I have sold European shares short. But to bonds, I am not optimistic about bonds anywhere in the world. In my view, interest rates everywhere will be going higher. The world is going to have more inflation, which is not good for bonds. The West, anyway, and Japan have staggering amounts of debt, which they have to finance. So I am not optimistic about bonds anywhere, including in Japan. If any of you happen to be bond portfolio managers, I would urge you to get another job. You're at the wrong place at the wrong time. But to your point about how will Japan cope with higher interest rates, which is an extremely good question, I explained to you all early that Japan has huge problems facing it down the road. You have a low birth rate, you have no immigration, and you have high debt, which is going higher. So yes, higher interest rates are going to hurt Japan down the road. Japan has three choices. You can either have babies, which you've decided not to do. You can allow immigrants, which you've decided not to do. Or you can have a declining standard of living. So you're going to have a declining standard of living down the road for the very reasons that you bring up, unless somebody does something quickly. If I were a 10-year-old Japanese child, I would be very angry at what the adults are doing to my country. Because when those 10-year-olds are 40 years old, you have a country where the population is down a lot and the debt is up a lot and interest rates are up a lot. So if I were you, I would teach your 10-year-olds Chinese, which is what I'm doing.